All right, cool. We are live and recording. Hope you guys are having a great day so far, great week so far. I am pretty pumped up. Collective, the iThrive Collective that just launched. If you weren't aware, didn't listen, or didn't hear about it in the other podcast episodes, the videos, launched last week, and it has just been incredible so far. Just seeing all of the people, all the women in here connecting with each other, sharing their stories, sharing their wins, sharing food and recipe ideas. I have another client who's planning on putting a full day of eating inside of the collective too, showing exactly how she hits her nutrition goals and how she's been so consistent. And there's just so much in there. So many really cool resources too. Like we had somebody in the collective share kind of a daily checklist that they made that they can print out, put on their refrigerator, put on their wall, and check off if they're marking off like the boxes every day of what they should be doing regarding their calorie goals, their protein goals, their steps, all of that, which is just incredible. Like creating something like that to hold yourself accountable, but then sharing it with this community so other people can use it. Other resources being shared in here, all the videos in the classroom section, the modules, and just overall, just the sense of like, I've had multiple people message me, and one in particular, she messaged me and she's like, didn't realize I needed this community as bad as I did. And talking about how, this fitness journey that she's on, this nutrition journey, this fat loss journey, her friends and family are not on this journey, and she feels alone, when she's not in this group. But now that she's in this group, she finally feels like she has like a community of like-minded people who are all trying to achieve the same thing, and she doesn't feel like she's just completely on an island in her journey anymore, which can be so motivating. Like having that support, having that community of people all on the same mission is so powerful, because you feel like almost you're trying to achieve something within your body, obviously for yourself, but almost for like a greater purpose and cause. And like that can be so motivating. And it's just made me so happy to get that message from her, because that's what I want this community to be about, is each other, like all of us motivating each other, inspiring each other, sharing resource to each other. Obviously, like, me in this group, I'm the dietitian. I'm the one who does the one-on-one coaching with clients and stuff. And I'm doing the live Q&As and everything, but there's also so much value to get out of each other too. And this is a place to really bring everyone together while also like watching you guys get some really incredible results. So just so pumped about that, and so pumped about even just my VIP one-on-one clients too that I'm working with directly. There's been so many wins this week, and just been kind of overflowed with just gratitude with all the women I get to work with, and just see them progress. People who came to me, and I remember on our consult calls, our discovery calls before they even signed up, talking to me about how they felt like they were at a point where their body just would not respond to anything. And now, like, they're down 7 or 8 pounds over a span of just like a month or two of being in a fat loss phase, feeling like, wow, this is actually happening. And I feel better than I have in over a year. And I'm just so grateful to do what I do in both areas, in the collective and with the one-on-one clients. So just really excited about that. And if you haven't joined the collective yet, you can still get in at the $29 a month price point. I'll link that in the description of this podcast. It should be the top link on there. I really recommend checking this out. If you listen to my podcast and you're on the fence, check it out. Like, it's less than $1 a day. There's no minimum commitment. You can cancel at any time if you aren't getting what you think out of that you should be getting out of this group. But I guarantee once you're in, you're going to realize like this is where you need to be. So after talking about that, let's dive into today's topic. So today's topic, the title, you probably will see something along the lines of using your future you to prevent failure, to eliminate failure, to succeed, to keep you motivated. And this conversation sparked from a conversation I was having with a VIP one-on-one client. Surprise, a lot of these topics come from one-on-one clients, because I know, that's what speaks to you guys. And this was a conversation we were having, and this individual client, she's had a couple of weeks where She enjoyed more alcohol than what she had been, the past few months, we've been working together. She enjoyed more food. She celebrated. She had this event that she went to for most of the week last week and all this. And she came back just feeling discouraged because, she looks back and where she is and she feels like she should be farther along. And this was a really eye-opening, I think, at least I hope, conversation for her. And I think it will be for you if you're in the same boat where maybe you're on some kind of fitness journey, or, you started your own journey of, trying to eat the right foods or track your calories, track your protein, go through the priming phase like I always talk about, go through even a fat loss phase. You're starting to implement working out regularly or going on walks and all these healthy habits. And maybe you're somebody who's grown up enjoying, fried foods all the time, pizza, burgers, treats, brownies. Raising my hand here, that's exactly where I was when I grew up. I enjoyed all those things all the time. Like, that's what 90% of my diet consisted of. And you might be in that same boat where that's how you were growing up and that's how you've always been. But you decided to take a leap, whether it be in a coaching program, working with a coach, doing this on your own, but you decided to take a leap to change that because you want to get in better shape. You want to lose weight. You want to lose body fat. You want to feel confident in your own skin finally. You want to start fitting in those old shorts that you haven't worn since the first time you bought them. And even when you bought them the first time that you felt like they were too tight, so you haven't put them on since. You want to fit in those again. Like, if you're in this boat, you need to hear this. And especially if you're in this boat, you need to hear about the struggles that you might feel like you're having. I actually just recorded a podcast episode or two ago regarding how long it's going to take you to reach your dream body. And this kind of conversation is kind of like a part two of that previous podcast, where a lot of times it's going to take you a lot longer than what you think to reach your goal. Like, it's so easy to see all of these posts, all these transformations, all of this and that on social media and think you can do a 12-week program and lose 20 pounds and just magically have your life transformed. And shit just does not work that way. Every once in a while, 1 in every 100 people might do it that way. Maybe even every 1 in every 50 people might do it that way. But the other 49 people, it's going to be more of a struggle and it's going to take more time. It's going to take more patience than that. You are not going to achieve, most likely, some kind of crazy result in just 12 weeks or 16 weeks or even 26 weeks. And even if you do achieve some kind of crazy result, it's going to take longer to maintain that. And let's say you're in this boat where, maybe you've been doing something for 4 or 5 or 6 months and you've built some really good habits actually when you look back on things. Like, before you started this journey, you had no idea how many calories you were eating. You had no idea like what foods were high in protein, what foods were high in carbs, what foods were high in fiber. You didn't eat any fruits and vegetables. You didn't walk regularly. You had no idea what your steps were, or maybe you were only getting 4,000 steps per day. You weren't conscious of your food choices at all. Maybe your alcohol intake was up to like 10 drinks on average per week. And now you're lifting weights a few times a week. You're hitting 8 to 10,000 steps per day. You are eating, a few servings of fruit and vegetables per day. You're trying to at least be conscious of your food choices and not eat as much of the fried foods, as much as the processed foods. And you're trying to eat a more whole food balanced diet. And you're, maybe not 100% consistent with your calorie and protein range, maybe not hitting that all the time, but you're at least hitting that far more consistently than what you were 4 months ago before you started this journey. And maybe you look back on those past 4 months or those 5 months, and you look at pictures of yourself and you look at, how your clothes are fitting, and maybe it's not that different. Maybe the change you see physically over that time period, even though you've obviously put in a lot of work to get to that point over those past 4 months, like of changing your habits, maybe the physical result just isn't really there yet. And you're feeling discouraged and you're feeling like, what in the hell is the point? And the thing is that you've made a ton of progress over that time period. Whether or not the physical result has actually changed, your habits have changed a ton. And sometimes there's a baseline level of habits and of a baseline level of a foundation that you have to build before your body really starts responding and changing the way you want it to be. And this is an analogy I've used a couple times, but I want to say it again. It's almost like you have an ice cube and you put it in a freezer at 20 degrees Fahrenheit, which is below freezing. Correct me if I'm wrong, but freezing is 32 degrees Fahrenheit. So we're going to use that for the example because I believe that's what it is. Let's say freezing is 32 degrees Fahrenheit. You have an ice cube and it's 20 degrees Fahrenheit in this freezer. Let's say every hour that temperature in that freezer goes up by 1 degree. And then, after the first hour, it's 21 degrees. The second hour, it's 22. The third hour, it's 23 degrees, and so on. For those first 11 hours, while that temperature is still below freezing, you would probably see no physical change in the ice cube at all because the temperature there is still below freezing. But once it hits 32 degrees Fahrenheit, or let's say 33 degrees Fahrenheit, clearly over freezing, you notice there's a little bit of water kind of dripping on the side of the ice cube, or that ice cube is starting to shrink in size from melting a little bit. Now, if we had no concept of how temperature increases change the state of an ice cube, or we had no data, or we didn't know that the temperature was gradually rising in the freezer over that period of time, then you would probably think that, okay, like from going from 20 to 31 degrees Fahrenheit or going from 20 to 32 degrees, like was a waste because nothing happened, right? You would think those first 11 hours of that temperature increase, if you didn't know the temperature was going up, you would think it's a waste. And you would think there'd be something magical too about that 12th hour, that for some reason after 12 hours then the thing starts melting, when really it wasn't even the 12 hours, it wasn't even that time frame that caused it to start melting. It was all of the 11 degrees that temperature increased beforehand that built the foundation for it to be able to start melting afterwards. And that's how a lot of these habits are for a lot of you, and it might be for you listening. You might be or might have changed a lot of your habits over the span of the past 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. And you might not see that big of a physical result, but you might be just 1 degree lower than that threshold that you need to really start seeing the fat loss or the body composition changes that you want. You might have like a huge amount of these baseline level foundational habits in place, and all you need is just that little bit of extra consistency, and then things start melting and things start moving and your body fat starts coming off and your body starts changing. You might be at that brink, really ready to break through, but if you let this discouragement and this obsession almost of what the physical result is, what the weight in the scale is, if you let that just constantly run in your head all the time and you let that lead to self-sabotage and quitting, then you'll never realize that you were just right on the brink of that. And you were just right almost at the tip of that mountain, ready to actually see like the horizon in front of you of the progress that's truly possible. And this is where the title of this whole thing kind of comes into play as far as your future self. What I want you to do is I want you to think about your future self 5 years from now. And I think a big reason why people end up quitting and self-sabotaging themselves, or they get frustrated because of after a few months, even after implementing some new habits, they still aren't seeing the physical result yet, is because they have this expectation of what the results should be. They have this expectation of, okay, I'm 3 months in, I should have seen more of a physical result than this. I'm working hard. Like these habit changes, these behavior changes are hard. I should have seen a bigger change than this, right? It's all an issue of what your expectations are and what you feel like you should be seeing of the result. But if you come into this with no expectation of what the results will look like, and you come into this with, I'm just going to execute and slowly change my behaviors over time, implement the right behaviors that I need for the result that I eventually want to get, I'm going to implement them more often over time and get better with consistency. If you come into that or come into it with that expectation of really not having any expectation of the physical result and only come in with it with the expectation of you are going to just try to get better each day or each week, then you're going to have the mindset that you need or the mentality that you need to just keep going even when things do feel a little bit stalled. And you're going to have the mentality that you need to break through that period of, you feeling discouraged, or you might even avoid that discouragement to begin with. Because like I said, that discouragement, that frustration, that feeling of wanting to give up, it's literally all linked into your expectations of what the process or their journey should look like for you. Which brings me to what I was going to say about your future self. Think about your future self 5 years from now. And let's say they could go back in time and talk to you. And they come back and they're like, hey, I know you're at this point where you've been implementing these different habits and you've obviously been putting in effort, like changing your behaviors are hard. It's not easy. And I know you feel like giving up. And I know you feel like your progress should be more than what it is. But your progress is right at the pace where it's meant to be. Your story isn't meant to be a 3-month huge transformation and then, you eventually probably gain it back, because if you have a huge transformation and it's just 3 months, you probably didn't build a solid foundation of habits and you probably did something extreme. But your future self is telling you, this is what your story is supposed to look like. It's supposed to be a grind for the first 4 or 5 months because you have a lot of habits you need to change. You have a lot of bad habits with alcohol, with eating fried foods, with self-sabotage, with consistency, that it's going to take a while to get through them. But after the first 4 to 5 months, when you felt like, man, I really don't see that much of a change in the mirror, even though I've been working really hard, that 4 to 5 month period, you are right below that threshold that you need to start actually seeing consistent results. And you kept going. Even though on month 6, you wanted to quit, you kept going. And then you finally found that level of consistency that you needed to see results. And then the next 6 months, you lost 25 pounds. And then the next 6 months after that, you lost another 25 pounds. And then a year from this point, you were down 50 pounds. Even though the first 6 months you didn't lose anything. But the first 6 months, you built all of those habits that you needed. You built all those skills that you needed. You built all of that consistency. You built all of those lifestyle changes that you needed to actually start seeing the weight loss move forward. But you kept going despite wanting to quit, despite questioning it. And now, a year after that, you lost the 50 pounds. And now 3.5 years from that, 5 years later, it's me 5 years from the future coming back and telling you that this is exactly the spot that you're supposed to be in. This is exactly the rate of progress you should be seeing right now. So there's no misalignment of like the results you're seeing versus the results you should be seeing, because this is what you should be seeing. And if your future you told you in this point when you wanted to give up that, hey, if you just keep working on getting better each week or each day, next month, you're going to break through and you're going to start to see changes on the scale. You're going to start to see changes in your body composition, and that is going to fuel your motivation and your drive to keep going. And then the next month, you're going to see even more changes, and the next month, even more. And then a few months after that, you're going to think back and be like, wow, like I'm actually doing this thing. I'm actually seeing the weight in the scale change. I'm actually seeing my body composition change. I'm actually feeling my confidence change. And I'm actually feeling like, wow, I actually can do this thing. And then you think back to that 5th month where you almost gave up and you're like, I'm so damn glad I kept going, because if I would have given up, I would have given up right before I would have just unlocked this new chapter in my journey where things really started to unfold. So I want you to think about, if you're somebody wondering what's the point in all of this, when you've implemented a lot of new habits, but maybe the change physically just isn't there yet, and you're thinking about giving up, I want you to think about the future you 5 years from now. And what if they told you that like your progress up to this point is exactly where you were supposed to be? You're actually not behind. You're actually not failing. You've actually implemented a lot of really good habits, but this is just where you're supposed to be based off of the level that you started at and where you're at now, but there's a whole new level of you that you are going to unlock here soon if you keep going. Think about that person and let that thought of that person or that reality of that person will exist if you keep going. Let that fuel you to keep going. Because if you quit, then that future you from 5 years from now will never exist. And they might come back and tell you, hey, you should have kept going. Like, you quit right when you were at the peak, right where you were at that period where you were going to break through and finally see. And you quit too early. And now, you're still in the same place where you started. But you could have been so much farther if you just kept going. So hopefully, thinking about this or me talking about this really helped to paint a picture of a different way of viewing things. And I think we get so wrapped up in our own feelings with this journey. We get so wrapped up in our own heads. And it's almost like we get so egocentric about our own journey and think like the world is all against us. Like, why am I not seeing as good of results as this person or that person? And it's all linked to just these expectations that we have in our head of what our journey is supposed to look like based on other people's realities, when really our reality is different than theirs and our journey is different than theirs. And we are always writing our own story day to day. And the most important thing isn't the physical result that you're seeing, but it is what habits have you changed. And if you can look back even 3 months from now and realize I've changed a lot of habits for the good, and if I just keep plugging away at changing these habits over time and working on my consistency over time, there's no doubt that I'm going to lose the body fat or lose the weight, because it'll just have no choice but to happen because the actions there are in place. But if you obsess over the result over and over and over and focus less on the actions, then you're just never going to get there, because you're going to drive yourself nuts, because you're always going to be trying to look over the next hill, over the next hill, over the next hill, and never really learn to embrace the now. And you need to learn how to embrace the now in order to take action on the now, because it's the action in the now that you take which is going to actually lead to that future you that you want. Hopefully this helped. Hopefully this got your mind thinking. Hopefully if you were on the brink of giving up, you didn't and you kept going, maybe even just because of this podcast. So appreciate you all. Hopefully this was helpful. Like I said, if you want to join our I Thrive Collective community for even more resources, workouts, motivation, recipes, food ideas, guidance on how to implement the 3 phases I use with my one-on-one clients, click the link in the description and join. Appreciate you all, and I will see you guys in the next one.